Y'all ready for some good local wrestling? Yeah! Right on. Man, there's a lot of faces out here tonight. I'm liking what I'm seeing. All right, a few things before we get started. Tonight we are selling concessions as usual, but also we have a raffle for 4 tickets. Hello, there we go. For 4 tickets to Scars and Stripes. The raffles are only $5 a piece, and it's for 4 tickets, like I said, for Scars and Stripes next month. I'll have to check on the date on that real quick. PopCon, if you share the flyer with the hashtag Empire Strikes Back, you'll be entered for a drawing for 2 weekend passes for PopCon. Right on. Yes, let's do that. Share that flyer. Hashtag Empire Strikes Back. All right, let's get the first match going underway. First out.
Oh, yeah.
Right on.
First out.
Yeah! We have the Saints of Pro Wrestling.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am the Velvet Voice, the one, the only Walker Stewart, here live in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We are outside today. It is a wonderful day here, and I have by my side none other than Diamond Jim James Southern. James, how you doing today?
It is a bright, sunny day here in Oklahoma City. The sun is beaten down, and I am ready for some beatdowns to take place here in an Empire Pro Wrestling ring.
Well, I'll tell you this much. We have just announced very recently a tournament to determine the #1 contenders for the Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team Championships. The winner of this tournament tonight will go on to face none other than the Psychotic Messengers in Maniac Mike and Malachi for those Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team titles, James.
Without a doubt, we've got 4 of Empire Pro's best stepping up, and these men are making their way to the ring now to start things off. Look at them, the Saints of Pro Wrestling, Scott and Sean Sanders. What a dominant force in Oklahoma wrestling, Walker.
Now look at these two. These absolutely freaks of nature, these massive individuals, and they are no strangers to tag team championship gold in Oklahoma, James. We are going to find out tonight if they are going to advance all the way to the finals. We will see after this contest. And this contest features 2 individuals that I am not exactly privy to in 7th Born, James.
Indeed, all we know about these 2 gentlemen is they refer to themselves as Pyro and Saw. That's about all the information we have about these 2. Look at this guy. Pyro just... I assume that's Pyro. I assume the one spitting fire is Pyro, and the one wielding a chainsaw is Saw.
Of course. I mean, that's a very reasonable understanding to come to, James. Pyro and Saw, 7th Born, are here. James, I for one am frightened. I mean, who let this guy in the building? They're I guess, in the vicinity of the building. He has a chainsaw, for crying out loud.
Normally, the Sanders are the most intimidating competitors in the ring, but anybody breathing fire and wielding a chainsaw has to be up there.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this match is going to be set for one fall. We are in the, I guess what would be considered the semifinals. The winner of this match will go on to the finals. And, of course, vie for the #1 contendership to the Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team Championships. And you have to imagine, James, that 2 individuals that have their eyes on this competition right here are, of course, Maniac Mike and Malachi.
Without a doubt, they've got their eyes on both teams, the Saints and 7th Born. Of course, we also have X-Rated coming up, taking on the Rebel Hearts, that in our other semifinal match. And, of course, our big main event tonight, the career versus career match. Striker taking on Maddox Jones. The EPW championship is on the line.
That is going to be absolutely phenomenal. As here we go, the bell has sounded. This match is underway as, well, it looks like Sanders here can't exactly figure out what to make here of his opponent in Pyro, James.
without a doubt, having not seen Pyro here in Empire before, and with this display of his lack or disregard for safety when it comes to fire, open flames, and other dangerous activities, he's got to worry a little bit if you're one of the Saints.
Well, I mean, some people are familiar with the way that fire has an effect on the redwood tree, James, and it's not easy to chop down a redwood, especially if he has ham hocks like that.
But that is what Pyro and Saw are going to have to do against these two massive redwood trees, these two behemoths, if you will, in the Sanders twins.
And here we go. Sanders now has Pyro in the corner. That patented elbow strike right in the corner.
Just rearranging the teeth in Pyro's mouth. If there are any teeth in there, we can't actually see back in that mask.
Of course. Well, I mean, hey, at least we know that if Sanders knocks a tooth loose or anything like that, you know, he will be able to contain it within the mask.
Valid point there, Walker, as we see a big knee once again just targeting the head and neck of Pyro.
Well, James, I have to ask you, who do you favor in this contest between the newly debuted team of 7th Born and, of course, the already established Saints of Pro Wrestling?
Well, you've got to give it to the most decorated team in Oklahoma professional wrestling, the longest-running team in Oklahoma professional wrestling. The Sanders not only have the size, but the experience advantage here.
You know, I'd argue that this match is continuing on within the feeling out process here as we get a tag and Saw makes his way into this contest.
Now getting our first look at the chainsaw-wielding maniac.
And we see an attempt at a double clothesline, which doesn't exactly pan out for the way of the 7th Born. Big boot. Dropping Saw. Saw is trying to do everything he can to stay on top of this action, trying to stay on top of his offense. Off the ropes.
Trying some spears and shoulder tackles there, trying to take Sanders off his feet, but it's not working.
Well, I think that Saw has the right idea here, though. You know, if this referee would allow him to do what he's designed to do, and that is to attack.
Our referee here, Dave, just trying to enforce the rules and get Saw out of the corner.
The repetitive kicks and the strikes to the back of Sanders here. Slowly but surely, that's got to be able to wear the big man down eventually, James.
Saw trying to cut down the big man, but it doesn't work.
Of course, we saw just now the Sanders. And now these clubbing blows to the back of Saw. We got a tag here. And it looks like both Sanders are in the ring now. What are we going to be seeing here, James?
Grabbing the leg and driving that knee down. Saw definitely feeling that. The ACL, the MCL, the PCL. Having your knee jerked around like that is not fun.
It's only par for the course whenever you're talking about the Saints of Pro Wrestling, James Southern. These men, I mean, they have made a living the past 15 years or so doing exactly this. This tag team cohesion between these two brothers have brought them multiple tag team championships across the world, as we saw a kick out there from Saw.
But that confidence might be catching up with him there. A bit of a cocky pin, and it didn't work out. You're going to have to hold Saw down, literally and figuratively.
You know, some of the greatest tag team champions in the history of professional wrestling have been brothers, James.
You don't have a connection like that with any other partner, and especially when you've got a set of twins like we've got here in the ring. You grow up, you know exactly what the other's thinking, exactly what the other's doing at all times. What better partner could you ask for?
Exactly. The Sanders can be compared to the likes of the Dudley Boys and a multitude of other tag team brother combinations here.
Without a doubt, great comparisons there as the Sanders are going to work here on 7th Born.
Oh my gosh, what a drop.
That is gonna do it here for Pyro. 1, 2, 3.
That's it.
Advancing to the finals to crown a #1 contender for the Empire Pro Tag Team titles, the Saints of Pro Wrestling.
What a match we just witnessed here. A hell of a victory for the Saints of Pro Wrestling. And also a great showing, at least from 7th Born. You know, they tried to do everything they could, everything within their power to stop Scott and Sean Sanders. But in the end, the Sanders advanced to the finals of this #1 Contenders tournament.
7th Born collecting the pieces here. It was a good first showing. We might see him back here in Empire Pro, but it just wasn't enough to overcome the most decorated team in Oklahoma Pro Wrestling history.
All right, folks, let's keep the action rolling on here tonight for our next match. It's a tag team match and it's scheduled for one fall. And is for the next round of the miniature tournament for the Empire Tag Team Championship.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard our ring announcer here tonight, Ozzy Hendricks, say exactly that. This next match is going to be your second semifinals contest for the Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team Championship #1 Contenders Tournament, happening here live in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Walker, that Malachi and Maniac Mike have to be scouting the competitors in this tournament. Now you got to know that the Saints of Pro Wrestling are watching to see who they're going to be facing a little later on tonight to determine our new #1 contenders.
You know, if they're not watching, they're sure as hell recovering in the back right now, taking some time to themselves to strategize and to game plan for these two teams that they're incredibly familiar with.
We're waiting.
As we await the arrival of the newly reformed team. You saw it just weeks ago at EPW Thirst for Gold. It is X-rated. Kevin James Sanchez and Shane Sanchez are back in action. And I was actually right there, James, just as you were, but I was there right at ringside for that matchup between Kevin James Sanchez and Tyson James. Of course, that idiot Mike Andrews had to be at ringside and get involved. But of course, we saw Shane Sanchez come out and help Kevin James Sanchez pick up the victory against Tyson James. Now Tyson James is out of the entitled for good.
Anytime Mike Andrews is around, you have to know that there's a rat's nest sitting empty somewhere. And Kevin Sanchez brought his cousin Shane back to even the odds, and things worked out in the tradition's favor. Now let's see if they can keep things moving with a shot at the Empire Pro Tag Team titles.
And ladies and gentlemen, quite the familiar sight here. The entitled, the Rebel Hearts, Christian Temple and Justin Gray, accompanied by none other than the Empire Pro Wrestling All-American Champion, Logan Knight.
Of course, a dominant force in Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team history, former Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team champions here in Gray and Temple, the Rebel Hearts. Of course, you got to give them an advantage going into this one, having their partner, their friend, their best bud, their stablemate, if you will, in Logan Knight here at ringside with them. You've got to give a huge advantage to them for that.
Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about not only former Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions. Let's play it straight here. Justin Gray and Christian Temple are the longest reigning Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions. You know who they had to overtake to achieve that record? None other than the current Tag Team Champions in the Psychotic Messengers.
Without a doubt, once a very dominant force in the Empire Pro Tag Team scene, and they're looking to prove that once again here against the team of X-Rated. A game of rock, paper, scissors here to decide which Sanchez is going to start the match.
Well, that's a hell of a way to strategize, James. And that just goes to speak for the confidence of Kevin James Sanchez and Shane Sanchez going into this. They didn't need to know coming into this match who exactly was going to start this tag team contest.
Well, you mentioned those familial ties earlier, and you've got the same thing going here. It's not as close as a relationship as a twin, but you've got some cousins here who have experience teaming up. it's just sort of, it's like riding a bike. They're just coming back to it here, Walker.
Exactly. As the bell is sounded, this match is underway. Collar and elbow tie-up here between Kevin James Sanchez and the death match enthusiast himself, Justin Gray, who's recently announced that he is going on a bit of a tour, James, a tour de death.
He claims to be the massive death match legend, and he's attempting to prove that here soon, but he's going to have to get through Kevin James Sanchez first, who he seems to want no part of right now.
Well, how can you blame him? We're talking about a man who is rolling with inertia. The momentum of Kevin James Sanchez cannot be understated enough. And like I mentioned before, I was sitting right there. I was standing right there, in fact, at Thirst for Gold whenever he picked up that incredible victory over Tyson James. You know that he walked into the venue here tonight feeling absolutely incredible.
And you have to, knowing you've got the support of somebody like Shane Sanchez, who, I'll be honest, we haven't heard a lot from here locally. It seems like Kevin James has been the Sanchez running shop in Oklahoma, but you can always count on family, Walker, when times get tough, and Kevin James reached out to family.
Oh, a snapmare transition into the kick in the back. Christian Temple is feeling himself here.
Having a bit of fun playing with Kevin James Sanchez.
Shoving that knee directly into the back of Kevin James here. Transitioning that into a side headlock and into a lateral position. Christian Temple trying to maintain offense. I believe we had the tag there, but no, referee Brent Wall calls it off, not in the midst of this submission attempt.
Well, I believe referee Brent Wall there was trying to accuse the Rebel Hearts of trying to get some additional leverage,
and that
here,
additional
which they're
leverage
doing
we see.
again.
Big stomp there to the skull of Kevin James Sanchez. You know, if you're the Rebel Hearts, what are you looking to do here, James? How are you looking to overcome this team with admittedly more experience, even though we haven't seen them in a long time, more experience and more championship gold to their resume?
Well, right now, the strategy we seem to be seeing from the Rebel Hearts is cheat. Take advantage of every opportunity they get. If they can double team, they will. And say what you will about it, it's a smart strategy, albeit not a legal one.
Exactly. Christian Temple putting the boots, the knees right to that injured knee, that injured leg of Kevin James Sanchez. You want to talk about a knee? Talk about the one that just came from the height of that of Justin Gray. He's got that knee bar locked in. Kevin James is trying to do everything he can to find his way to a rope, find his way to his tag team partner.
Of course, that left knee of Kevin Sanchez, if you've watched Empire Pro before, you've seen it. He wears a large brace on it, and it's just like a bullseye that the Rebel Hearts have zeroed in on.
Yeah, Justin Gray is absolutely trying to tear this knee out of socket. Kevin James Sanchez, you mentioned it before, the history of knee problems throughout his professional career. And it's not like Justin Gray or Christian Temple are making it any easier on a man who, admittedly, a former Empire Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion is who we're talking about in Kevin James Sanchez. That man is no slouch in the ring right here.
Without a doubt, we talked earlier about the Rebel Hearts' history of holding gold here in Empire Pro Wrestling, but Kevin Sanchez is no stranger to it either. You mentioned a former Empire Pro heavyweight champion. Now you got to see he's got his sights set on the tag championships. He's got his cousin back. It seems like all is going well in the Sanchez household if he could only make the tag to Shane, who's trying to come in and save his cousin right now, but the Rebel Hearts just taking advantage of the opportunity.
And of course, that aforementioned heavyweight championship reign of Kevin James Sanchez only cut short due to a concussion delivered on the end of a man who we'll be seeing later on tonight, Father Padge. Kevin James Sanchez never actually lost that heavyweight championship. Beyond that, he's a former tag team champion in his own right here in Empire Pro Wrestling with none other than Gemini. So he knows what it takes to become a tag team champion around these parts, James. That's for certain.
without a doubt. And as I said, it's got to be a good, familiar feeling to know you've got Shane Sanchez, you've got X-Rated back together on the outside.
Shane Sanchez breaking up that submission attempt here from Justin Gray.
Just as we speak his name, he makes the save and keeps things alive for his team.
Now, Justin Gray sending Kevin James Sanchez into the corner. Massive chop to the chest of Kevin James. Big boot to the face. And here we are seeing the repetitive nature of Justin Gray going to the well a couple of times here out the corner. No. Justin Gray really knows how to turn up the heat, but Kevin James Sanchez just threw cold water all over it.
Turning Temple inside out and slamming him down with that massive spine buster. Sanchez now turning around. He's going to the wrong corner here. That's how disoriented he is from this brutal beatdown that he's been taking at the hands of Temple and Gray.
And now Shane Sanchez is in the ring here. The big heat is in the building. Lifting him up, spine buster, dropping him flat on his back, going for the cover on Christian Temple. No, Justin Gray separates that engagement. What is Shane Sanchez and Kevin James now?
Ripping those arms away from the body of Justin Gray. Christian Temple now caught by Shane.
He's got that arm wrench. Oh, eat defeat, Christian Temple flattening Shane Sanchez now. Christian Temple's got to do everything he can to stay in control in this contest here, James. I mean, we're talking about an opportunity in this tournament to face off against the Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions.
Without a doubt, and Kevin Sanchez eating a huge kick there on the outside.
A schoolboy, and that's it. Shane Sanchez with the most dangerous maneuver in professional wrestling history. The schoolboy roll-up. Shane Sanchez and Kevin James Sanchez picking up the victory in their very first match back as a tag team.
All it takes is 3 seconds, and Christian Temple just found that out at the hands of Shane Sanchez.
And look, oh, no.
Just a terrible showing of sportsmanship here from the Rebel Hearts. Never noted for it to begin with.
And now Christian Temple targeting that knee of Kevin James Sanchez. Justin Gray with a maneuver of his own, locked in on Shane. Something's got to give here, James. Where's our referee staff? Where's our security? Somebody break this up. This is not a sanctioned contest.
Kevin Sanchez and Shane Sanchez still have to go on to face the Saints of Pro Wrestling later tonight. Now that's in danger. I mean, you've got to question how much damage has been done to Kevin Sanchez's knee.
No, I cannot imagine that we see this match go on tonight. I mean, look at this. Justin Gray just doesn't know when to leave well enough alone. And Christian Temple, oh, give me a break.
Double underhook facebuster to Kevin Sanchez and a neck breaker to Shane Sanchez. Thankfully, it looks like the Rebel Hearts are done, but the damage has already been done.
No, you're absolutely right in that assessment, James. The damage has been done. And now we have a tag team #1 contenders match that's seemingly in jeopardy. Well, we will keep you updated throughout the night on the damage, if any, that has been sustained here on behalf of Christian Temple and Justin Gray. What a disgrace.
Just a truly despicable display from the Entitled, once again, like we seemingly see every show. Again, we will keep you updated on Shane and Kevin Sanchez's condition and whether or not this finals match will go on. But of course, our big main event still to come. The Empire Pro Heavyweight Championship is on the line. Stryker puts his career on the line, as does Maddox Jones. Somebody's walking away with the belt, and somebody's walking away with their boots in their hand for the last time.
I know, I can't believe that it all comes down to this tonight, James Southern, for Stryker and Maddox Jones. We talked about those familial ties throughout the past 2 contests. There is nowhere where familial ties are more apparent than in this night. But what's going on here?
Well, we were just talking about the Entitled. Here is another member of the Entitled, Tyson James, making his way to the ring.
Here he is, the amazing Tyson James. Of course, last time we saw Tyson James was on the losing end in a match against Kevin James Sanchez at Empire Pro Wrestling Zone Thirst for Gold back in Oklahoma City. And what a match that was. Tyson James, due to that match, though, in his losing efforts, got kicked out of his one group of compadres, the only group of people that cared enough about him to take him in at his lowest, and that is the Entitled. He claims the Entitled have shown him the way, and now he has the set of tools necessary to thrive without them.
Do you really think he's not got any involvement with the Entitled? Did you not see the way him and Logan Knight looked at each other on the way out? Tell me there's not some involvement. I just don't believe it. Tyson James is too nefarious.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how Tyson James fares in this contest, where his second opponent in this triple threat match for the RDW Iron Man Championship makes his way down to ringside. It's Darren Bain. It's been a while since we've seen Darren Bain around these parts, James.
It has, but it's going to be good to see Darren Bain back in action. He is making his way, shaking hands, greeting all these fans here at Empire Pro Wrestling on a beautiful sunny day here in South Oklahoma City.
Of course, Darren Bain still has not picked up any footwear, but that's okay. He thinks that he doesn't need it. Darren Bain, of course, is 0-9 here in Empire Pro Wrestling, James. How do you feel about that? What do you think is going through the mind of the yet to pick up a win superstar in the ring that is Darren Bain?
Hey, this match is for the Iron Man Championship. Find me an Iron Man that can walk on asphalt barefooted like Darren Bain. Hey, he's got to be my favorite going into this one.
Absolutely. You want to talk about a favorite? Look at this man, flanked by none other than Tyler Watts, who is the EPW International Champion. This is the RDW Iron Man Champion, the man with the biggest target on his back in this contest. He is the Stone Wolf, Duncan Kincaid.
Without a doubt, Duncan Kincaid making his way to the ring with this newfound ally in Tyler Watts. And we mentioned it in the last match, it's definitely a help when you've got somebody out there watching your back.
You're completely correct about that, James. It's going to be interesting to see what, if any, the role is of Tyler Watts in this contest. But right now, we are going to see another championship defense from Duncan Kincaid, who, of course, won this championship back in April of 2022 at a local Unified Wrestling Oklahoma event, our sister promotion.
Indeed, he has, and since then we've seen him defend it on various UWO and Empire Pro Wrestling cards. Now he gets to defend it in a triple threat against two very, very capable opponents in Tyson James and Darren Bain.
Absolutely correct in that assessment. The last time we saw Darren Bain around these parts was back in April as well, at our EPW Get It On at G-Con event in Durant, Oklahoma, where he competed, of course, in a losing effort alongside Duncan Kincaid, actually, in a tag team competition.
Duncan Kincaid at that point trying to find some allies, find some friends, find a sympathetic cause, and turns out Darren Bain wasn't the right fit then, but it seems like he's found a great fit with Tyler Watts, the Widowmaker and the International Champion.
Absolutely correct, James.
Tyson James trying the belt on for size, seeing how it fits.
It doesn't look too bad on him, I gotta admit, James.
It looks good on him. I'll give him credit. Here we go, Crazy Charlie displaying the belt here for the crowd.
You know, to hit on what you just pointed at, I mean, it does look completely fine on him, but he has to be able to earn this championship. He cannot cheat his way to a victory in this contest. It is a triple threat match, of course, meaning no disqualifications. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one turns out.
Indeed, Darren Bain seemingly making an early charge in this.
Yes, of course, Duncan Kincaid with this veteran experience pouring out to the outside. He said, I'm going to let you two duke it out.
Smart strategy on the champion's part, just waiting to come in and pick the bones, if you will.
You know, I want to point out here, James, I see a very different demeanor coming out of Darren Bain here tonight. I mean, usually we see Darren Bain coming out a very a manic individual, to say the least, and he's never really adorned himself to the fans here in Empire Pro Wrestling. But tonight he came out shaking hands, kissing babies. A phenomenal way to see Darren Bain here tonight in this contest as Tyson James.
Darren Bain seemingly turning over a new leaf there. He offered a handshake there to Tyson James, who did not take it and in turn went for an arm bar.
Well, I mean, it can't do much to the confidence of Darren Bain to have Tyson James reject this handshake. Darren Bain, despite being 0-9 here in Empire Pro Wrestling, a very competent competitor in his own right. We've seen him pick up victories all across the country. Darren Bain is looking to pick up his first one here in Empire.
And he almost had it. He was trying to apply the crossface chicken wing, shades of Bob Backlund, but he wasn't able to quite get it on the big man.
Of course, and that's really one of the downsizes, if so to speak, of Darren Bain. One of the things that a lot of people underestimate him for is his smaller stature, and we're going to see how much that really comes into play in this contest. Seemingly quite a lot when it comes to taking on Tyson James right now.
Darren Bain is going to have to be this quicker man because Tyson James is going to outpower him any day of the week. But he's got to use that speed and he's got to use that agility to take advantage. He's not going to win it just trying to shoulder tackle him like that.
Well, I was going to say, so much for speed and agility. I mean, Darren Bain try to go off the ropes, and Tyson James, it looks like he's giving him another opportunity at it here. Meanwhile, Duncan Kincaid is still on the outside. Tyson James with a massive clothesline, flattening.
Just turning Darren Bain inside out with a massive clothesline there. Darren trying to build up speed. He only built up speed to his own demise. A divorce court there separating the arm from the shoulder. Also the same move that broke Gary Pitbull number 2's neck.
Really?
Yes, indeed. Very dangerous move there for the shoulder and the neck.
I just want to point out, Duncan Kincaid going for the cover here. Let's see how this ends up. Only a one count seemingly from Crazy Charlie. Tyson James attempted to make a pin on Darren Bain using just the palm of his hand pressed to the chest. How discouraging, how disrespectful to the likes of Darren Bain.
Some people call it cockiness, some people call it confidence. Either way, Tyson James felt he had Darren Bain, but he doesn't have him quite yet.
Absolutely not. Darren Bain is trying to struggle out of this nerve hold here. Tyson James trying to do everything he can. Massive clubbing forearm to the side of the skull for Darren Bain.
Just right across the side of the head and the jawline of Darren Bain with a massive log-like forearm of Tyson James. He backs Tyson now into the corner, giving him a few shoulder blocks.
And Darren Bain, this looks like it's his opportunity here, James. He has both men sandwiched in the corner. Out of the corner again goes Darren Bain off the ropes. Another elbow strike to Duncan Kincaid. The inertia affecting Tyson James. Darren Bain is a house of fire here.
Couple of European uppercuts. Now a bulldog gets pushed off by Tyson James.
And again, you talked about that power advantage of Tyson James in this contest. We see that on full display here live in Oklahoma City.
Tyson James helping Duncan Kincaid to his feet now. Only to drape him across the ropes and choke him up.
And I just want to say Tyson James is on a bit of a dry spell recently when it comes to championship gold. You know, Tyson James had a couple of opportunities here in Empire Pro Wrestling for multiple variations of championship gold, and he hasn't been quite successful. In fact, across any promotions here in Oklahoma, we haven't really seen Tyson James get many opportunities whatsoever. So it's interesting to see how serious he is taking this opportunity here for the Red Dirt Wrestling Ironman Championship.
Without a doubt, Tyson James showing perhaps he hasn't been in the contention, but he should be, and he's trying to prove that in this triple threat against Darren Bain and our champion, Duncan Kincaid.
But Duncan Kincaid, I mean, he has gone on record to state that this is the most important thing to have ever happened to him. This launch into superstardom by the grasping of the Red Dirt Wrestling Ironman Championship. He is not going to let that up without an incredible fight. An incredible fight is what we're getting here as Duncan Kincaid with this crossface locked in.
And a couple of closed fists right there to the head, even though he's getting a warning from Crazy Charlie because of it. It seemed to do some damage as Darren Bain's just laying there holding his head now.
You know, I'm getting kind of frustrated with the amount of people disrespecting our referee, our official here in Empire Pro Wrestling, Crazy Charlie.
Without a doubt, we've got some of the finest officials in all of professional wrestling here at Empire Pro Wrestling. Crazy Charlie, of course, our senior referee, Brent Wall, and so many more great officials here in Empire Pro Wrestling, trying to keep order in all of this chaos as Duncan Kincaid gets back on Darren Bain.
A strike to the gut. These body shots here from Duncan Kincaid to Darren Bain. What is Tyson James doing?
Perhaps an unholy alliance of some sort.
What on earth? Tyson James has the RDW Ironman Championship. Oh, no.
Down goes the champ.
And Darren Bain. No, Tyson James breaking up that pinfall. What it would have done for the confidence of the shoeless wonder to pick up a victory in that fashion, let alone Tyson James going for that spear, and he hits it.
Tearing Darren Bain in half. Those ribs have to be aching as Tyson James just admiring his work. Now calling for Darren Bain to get up again.
What, like one wasn't enough, James?
Apparently not. That's Tyson James. Got Darren Bain up in the corner now.
There we go. No, I thought he was going for that jumping cutter. He did. He hit it. But Duncan Kincaid.
Tyler Watts caused the distraction. He got Tyson James's attention, and Duncan Kincaid sneaks in and steals the win.
Absolutely despicable. We questioned at the beginning of this contest what the presence of Tyler Watts here at ringside was going to do for the motivations, for the psyche of Duncan Kincaid, and it looks like that's the plan that they were concocting all along while Duncan Kincaid was on the outside of this match. Absolutely disappointing.
Without a doubt, not the day that Darren Bain or Tyson James were looking for.
But the show of respect from Tyson James to Darren Bain and vice versa, absolutely formidable. No!
New day, same old Tyson James. Darren Bain turned inside out with that massive cutter from Tyson James.
Well, some things never change, James, and I think that that's become very apparent here tonight. But still, no matter what Tyson James does, your RDW Ironman champion for the foreseeable future, Duncan Kincaid. You got to give it up for Darren Bain. He has been trying to do everything he can, pulling the Tim Storm, shaking hands with every single individual here in our audience.
Hey, it seems good to see that Darren Bain finally seems to have gotten on the right page with these fans. The Empire Pro Wrestling fans are good people, and I'm glad he can finally see that.
Absolutely phenomenal. Well, James, coming up next, we have a hell of a match, a highly anticipated contest at that. And that is going to be between Father Padge and Adrian Vega. Father Padge, a former Empire Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion who has been on quite the tear, quite the hunt recently to reclaim some form of championship gold. Beyond that, we have his opponent, Adrian Vega, a former Empire Pro Wrestling Internet Television champion, recently defeated in that Battle Royal at Thirst for Gold by the current ITV champion, Teego. Adrian Vega is trying to find a way to recuperate some some form of momentum. What are your thoughts going into this contest between Father Padge and Adrian Vega?
You've definitely got two guys on the rebuild. Of course, as you mentioned, Adrian Vega's loss a little fresher than Father Padge's. Father Padge has had some time to get some wins back under his belt. Adrian Vega's still looking for that, but I think this would be a good opportunity to prove it against a very experienced opponent.
I mean, imagine what it would do for Adrian and Vega's feelings right now to be able to pick up a victory over a former Empire Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion and a former Empire Pro Wrestling Internet Television champion. Despite that, even a tag team champion here in Empire Pro Wrestling. Father Padge, the Triple Crown. This man has done it all, and Adrian Vega is looking to showcase the fact that he can pick up a win over someone with that experience level.
Without a doubt, we've got a newcomer taking on a cornerstone of Empire Pro Wrestling, one of the founding fathers, if you will, against a young up-and-coming star in Adrian Vega.
Yeah, I'm sure founding Father Padge has a bit of a ring to it. I'm sure that's something that you should probably pitch to him at some point. You know, I just want to say, well, ladies and gentlemen, look who have arrived, or more so returned here tonight in the Empire Arena. None other than the Entitled, and they are flanked by a man who we're seeing for the very first time here tonight. And that is Father Padge. You know, I just want to point out here, James, this is a man, I don't know how anyone could be friends, could be compadres with Father Padge. This is the man who lost the Empire Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship, and for a brief period of time, he was not exactly the most friendly with anyone. The Dark Redeemer was had conflict within the Entitled, had conflict with Mike Andrews, had conflict with me. He kicked me in the back of the head, delivered the black mass to me just for doing my job.
Without a doubt, it seems like Father Padge has perhaps not turned a new leaf, but at least found a way to channel this anger and aggression that's come with the loss of the Empire Pro Heavyweight title. Perhaps he's able to channel it into better things in this match here against Adrian Vega.
Well, we're going to have to see that.
A sign of disrespect here to the crowd from Father Padge.
And what is...
Who is this? That's Tyson James.
Well, okay, we don't know that.
Look at him. Come on, tell me that you just saw him. Tell me that is not Tyson James.
Well, they look fairly similar. I'm not entirely... Well, let's let him explain himself, James.
All right, listen.
Be quiet and listen to your father.
We, at the last show, Tyson James got cheated out of his match and he lost, so he had to leave the Entitled.
Angels cry.
We had to move on. Unfortunately, we had to replace him. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to his replacement. The one and only Mr. Entitled.
I'm telling you, this guy looks pretty good. He works very hard.
Now, you can't fill a man like Tyson James' shoes, but we're damn sure going to try.
I can't be the only person. Yes, Chaps, you guys know that's
Tyson. No, that's not Tyson. That's Mr. Entitled.
He was. There's no way that him was Tyson James because he was just
So Mr. Entitled, the newest member of Entitled. Thank you.
all right, there you heard it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have the newest member of the Entitled here, making his debut in Empire Pro Wrestling. Mr. Entitled is here, James.
You're not going to believe that for a second, are you, Walker?
Well, I mean, he said his name's Mr. Entitled. I mean, what other choice do I have? I can only take a man for their word.
And my name's Bobby Heenan. This is obviously Tyson James standing at ringside, Walker.
Well,
You've got to be joking me if you believe this.
Well, listen, Father Padge hasn't exactly been one to lie. He's been one to cheat and steal, but lying has never really been on his radar, James.
Do you believe the man's really a father?
It's a phenomenal question. I will question his credentials at another time. Father Patch with his side headlock locked in, applied here on Adrian Vega.
I'm just saying, Walker, you can't take things at face value.
Especially not around here, James. Especially not around here. You know, James, I got to ask you, what is Adrian Vega's strategy going to be here against this larger opponent in Father Patch?
Well, right now, from what we've seen, it looks like he's going to attempt to out-wrestle Father Patch, which Father Patch, known for his strikes, not as much for his grappling ability, so perhaps this could work out for Adrian Vega to try to out-wrestle the man and get the big man on the ground.
It's going to be very interesting to see how he manages to do that as we see this wrist lock applied here by Adrian Vega, trying to maintain some form of control over Father Patch. Not very known for his arm-based offense, but nevertheless, Adrian Vega is trying to get any advantage that he can possibly find here, James.
He's got him in that side headlock now, just wrenching on the head and neck. He's got control for the moment here as Patch is trying to back him into the ropes.
And now Vega, this side headlock, maintaining it here. Referee Super Dave with a count. Only a 2 count, though. And we find ourselves at a bit of a reset point here, James.
Without a doubt, Adrian Vega, very nice, clean, upstanding competitor, letting Patch out of the ropes at 2.
Yeah, those are actions that we would never see on behalf of Father Patch. And just as I'm saying it, a poke to the eyes from Father Patch. Are you kidding me here, James?
And here comes Mr. Entitled.
Well, Mr. Entitled isn't exactly adorning himself to Adrian Vega nor these fans here in Oklahoma City. Father Patch now with the cover. Only a 2 count here. Adrian Vega managing to kick out of that clothesline attempt. Father Patch has to stay on top of Adrian Vega here. You cannot give Adrian Vega an inch, because if you give that man a millimeter, he takes a mile.
Without a doubt, with somebody with the technical and striking skills of Adrian Vega, you've got to be very, very cautious here. But Father Patch starting to put those educated feet to good work and delivering a big clothesline into the corner and a couple of strikes that rattle Vega's jaw.
Snapmare here out of the corner. Father Patch, what's he looking for here? Massive forearm shot to the back of the head of Adrian Vega.
Rattling the base of the skull there, the C1 and C2 vertebrae.
Leg drop, brother. That might be it. He's going for the cover here.
Right across the windpipe, but not enough to take the air out of Adrian Vega.
Adrian Vega still has some life force, still has a little bit of breath in him, and he is going to utilize that breath to pick up a victory here tonight. So help him God, as Adrian Vega and Father Patch are exchanging strikes from a kneeling position here in the middle of an Empire Pro Wrestling ring.
What a slugfest we have going on here in the summer heat. Father Patch is down, and Adrian Vega starting to rally.
And Vega now, what is he looking for here? Trying to power the big man over. Is he looking for that Boston Crab maneuver here, James?
That double leg crab, he's going for it. He's got him most of the way over now.
No.
Oh, come on. Tyson James just punched Adrian Vega in the head.
You know, this Mr. Entitled guy isn't exactly the kindest individual.
Yeah, it reminds me of somebody else we used to see running with the Entitled, doesn't it, Walker?
Well, I mean, somewhat, but I don't really get what you're alluding at here, James.
He must be blind as we see Adrian Vega here delivering a shot down, possibly temporarily blinding Father Patch right into the front.
Well, an eye for an eye. It's not like Father Patch wasn't seeking the visual perceptions of Adrian Vega.
Without a doubt, we saw that rake to the eyes earlier. Now Adrian Vega got him in the center of the ring with a big kick.
Off the ropes here. Massive boot to the side of the head, sending Father Patch flat on his back. Adrian Vega, what is he looking for here? Sharp elbow drop right to the sternum, going for the cover.
Notice the rotation on that elbow drop there at the very end, just pivoting and bringing the point of that elbow square into Father Patch's chest.
Adrian Vega now with
Hey, look, more Entitled interference. Now the spotlight's up on the apron.
Yeah, Logan Knight is up there doing what he does best, right? Talking the trash. And Adrian Vega is trying to pay that absolutely no attention. Wait, what is...
the spotlight blinded him. He's got a light in his hand. He's got some sort of spotlight or emergency light or something that he just used to blind Adrian Vega.
An incredible amount of lumens have just persecuted Adrian Vega with that DDT.
He ducked the black mass. Father Padge was going for it, but Adrian Vega just having the perception to duck and catching Padge with a DDT.
Wow, Adrian Vega still has a lot more to do if he wants to put Father Padge away. Father Padge kicking out only at 2.9, a very close 2 count out of that DDT.
Note Logan Knight walking around on the outside. He's got to be wondering. He's interfered. Quote-unquote, Mr. Entitled has interfered. What has it got to take for Father Padge to get this win? Because it seems like he's not going to be able to get it on his own tonight.
Well, let's be honest here. Adrian Vega might as well be wrestling a handicap match here tonight, sanctioned by Empire Pro Wrestling officials, because Father Padge, Logan Knight, and Mr. Entitled have been all over Adrian Vega this entire competition. Going for the cover here, hooking the outer leg. No, the rope break. Adrian Vega with the ring awareness of the century, saving himself in this contest tonight.
Without a doubt, we were just a split second away from this contest being over as Adrian Vega breaks the plane and makes the save, ending that pinfall attempt.
And now Father Padge must be wondering, what do I have to do to put this man away? Padge now, Irish whip off the rope, sending Adrian Vega going for a clothesline, ducked though. Adrian Vega lands with a clothesline of his own, and he is feeling himself here tonight, James.
Without a doubt, he's trying to recover there in that corner. He's taken a tremendous beating here at the hands of the Entitled. And
but what is Logan Knight?
Once again, more Entitled interference.
Oh my gosh, no, and after the blinding from the spotlight, the black mass. And that's it, James.
Just, as you said earlier, basically a handicap match with the Entitled here taking on Adrian Vega. Not getting the result he wants, but Father Padge picking up another win and keeping his momentum rolling, even through nefarious circumstances.
Well, it looks like no matter what, even with the lack of Tyson James at ringside, still the Entitled pick up a hell of a victory here tonight against Adrian Vega.
Without a doubt, the Entitled stands tall, even through dark and dirty means. They've still picked up the win, and things are looking good for Father Padge.
You know, I'd be really interested to see that Mr. Entitled individual get involved in this contest. You know, I'd love to see him take on Adrian Vega one-on-one.
I'm sure you would, because we haven't seen enough of Tyson James around here.
I don't know what you're getting at. That's not Tyson James. What is Logan Knight and the Rebel Hearts doing?
Once again, proving they are vultures that will pick the bones of everyone else's dirty work. Here are the Rebel Hearts, just laying waste to Adrian Vega.
Wow.
Just brutal display here, showing him off to the fans like some sort of a hunting trophy.
Oh, and the massive boot from Justin Gray.
Huge kick there. Poor Adrian Vega already had his brains scrambled tonight, and the Rebel Heart. And now Logan Knight's gearing up.
It looks like all of them are.
No,
oh my God.
Just awful. 4 super kicks to Adrian Vega. Just an awful sight to see here. Adrian Vega just trying to rebound, just trying to get his momentum back under him after losing the Empire ITV title. And now the Rebel Hearts really all of the Entitled here, just Makes me sick, Walker.
Absolutely despicable actions from the Spotlight Logan Knight, a man who I thought had turned a new leaf. So much for me hoping for the best in people, James.
And you thought Tyson James turned a new leaf too, and here we are watching him throw Logan Knight into Adrian Vega.
That's Mr. Entitled, James. I don't know. Where's your journalistic integrity? You haven't even cited your sources.
My journalistic integrity went out the window after they sent Tyson James out after his match. After he was in one contest, we see a man with just because he's got a bandana on, he's Mr. Entitled.
I mean, it's a beautiful bandana, okay? I don't know what you're getting all up in arms there. You're upsetting me here.
Walker, I just can't believe you can't see this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Walker Stewart, joined by none other than Diamond Jim James Southern, and we are back with more Empire Professional Wrestling action here tonight.
The sun is out, the action is hot, and the stars are shining bright in the middle of the day. It is time for more Empire Pro Wrestling action. We've still got that huge career versus career match for the Empire Pro Heavyweight title, Striker versus Maddox Jones. That's still to come in our main event. We're going to crown #1 contenders for the EPW tag titles, but as you mentioned, we're going to get some championship action in the ring to start off the second half of our show.
Yes, we are, as look who we have here, none other than the savior of suffering, Malachi, the current Empire, or one half of your Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions. And not only that, James, but now your AIWF World Tag Team Champions, the Psychotic Messengers, Maniac Mike, and of course, this individual himself. He is the savior of suffering, Malachi.
Malachi, the double champ, of course, with Maniac Mike. We're going to get to see them defend here at a future Empire show against whoever wins our semi-main event tonight, that #1 contendership match. But tonight, he's trying to add some more gold to his repertoire, some singles gold, if you will, as he takes on the international champion, Tyler Watts.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just receiving word from our management team in the back that the likelihood of Kevin James Sanchez and Shane Sanchez being involved in tonight's semi-main event for the #1 contendership is up in the air. We're not entirely sure what's going to happen here later on tonight.
Without a doubt, we saw a brutal beatdown from the Entitled and the Rebel Hearts earlier, and Shane and Kevin Sanchez are still being checked out. Of course, Kevin's knee was brutalized in that attack, and so we're still going to have to wait and see if they're going to be able to make it to face the team of the Saints of Pro Wrestling.
But of course, here we have the EPW International Champion, the man who, I would argue, Duncan Kincaid has to thank for maintaining his RDW Ironman Championship. He is the EPW International Champion, Tyler Watts.
Without a doubt, we saw the Widowmaker play a huge part in Duncan Kincaid's match earlier. Oh, of course, I've got to ask, Walker, do you think that we're going to see Duncan play dividends in this match for his partner?
You know, I would not be surprised whatsoever if we learned of an agreement between Duncan Kincaid and Tyler Watts. You know, it's almost a I will get you back sort of thing. You know, Duncan Kincaid is trying to do everything he can to teach this young upstart in Tyler Watts, as we get a collar and elbow tie-up, how to run the life of a champion as we get the biting of the fingers of Malachi.
Tyler Watts just straight to the rule breaking, to the cheating, raking the eyes there with the knee pad.
Absolutely despicable actions from Tyler Watts. These clubbing blows to the back of Malachi, proving exactly why he is a double champion at this current stage in his career, an EPW Tag Team Champion for the second time, as we get that Shining Wizard going for the cover, hooking the inner leg here. Only a 2 count, reversed into his own pinning. Oh no.
What a transition there from Tyler Watts, taking advantage of Malachi's positioning in the ring, going to the inside of that knee, chopping Malachi down.
And Tyler Watts, he has targeted that that right knee of the savior of suffering.
He is trying to wrap it around his leg there. and do some damage to those ligaments and tendons.
And Tyler Watts still just choking Malachi with his foot. You know, Tyler Watts is a man whose feet I would not want anywhere close to my face.
Without a doubt, it just well-placed kicks. Really anywhere that Tyler Watts lays a kick in, it's going to be dangerous. Now we see Malachi trying to get the wheels back under him, so to speak.
Yeah, the cobwebs are getting shaken up here tonight, that's for certain. As we see Duncan Kincaid conversing with referee Crazy Charlie here.
The Widowmaker, Tyler Watts, still on the outside here trying to catch his breath.
He is the Widowmaker. He's considered himself irreplaceable. Tyler Watts is a litany of things, but he is trying to walk out with one of those monikers still, and that is the EPW International Champion.
Without a doubt, the most important moniker in his life right now, holding on to that international championship. Fez press here from Malachi as he just starts raining elbows down on the head of Tyler Watts.
Wow. You know, what do you think is going through the mind of the savior of suffering right now, James?
Right now, he's got to be focused, really, not only on Tyler Watts in the ring, but Duncan Kincaid. We've seen him get involved once. Here he comes again. Hey, he's just...
What is Duncan Kincaid doing?
Just beating down Malachi here. This match is being thrown out by Crazy Charlie here, rightfully so. Duncan Kincaid just blatantly sliding in the ring and assaulting Malachi.
The referee has just called for the disqualification here. Duncan Kincaid and the knee to the back of the head of Malachi. What has gotten into these two? But wait, is that senior official Martin Justice?
Martin Justice entering the ring here, making the save for Malachi, sparing him from this beatdown that he was the victim of by Tyler Watts and Duncan Kincaid. Duncan and Tyler Watts making their retreat here.
Understand, we ain't finished.
Looks like Tyler Watts. There will be no.
So why don't we do this? I got one left in me. You are my son, but I'm ready to kick your ass Okie style. Whoa. July 30th. That's it, run.
Wow, walking.
We want it now.
Hey, get in the back and make me a sandwich.
Oh. We're humbling Tyler Watts, humbling Kincaid.
Wow, what a statement that has been made here tonight by Martin Justice, James.
Martin Justice laying down the law and issuing the challenge.
On July 30th are going to be one less title.
And the challenge has been laid out at EPW Scars and Stripes July 30th. Martin Justice and Tyler Watts.
What a match that is going to be for the International Championship. Tyler Watts might have walked away from this one not having to defend against Malachi, but I have a feeling there is no escaping Martin Justice on July 30th.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, coming up next, we are going to be seeing a championship defense. It is going to be a champion versus champion, only one championship on the line. The All-American Championship will be defended here tonight as the Spotlight Logan Knight defends against the EPW Internet Television Champion, Teego.
Without a doubt, we saw Teego pick up the ITV Championship at the Thirst for Gold pay-per-view. Now he's trying to become two-champ Teego here against Logan Knight, and trying to take away Logan's Empire Pro Wrestling All-American Championship.
You know, and I got to tell you, I've seen these two go head-to-head before, but not in singles competition. Of course, I want to flashback to a prior Unified Wrestling Oklahoma event here in Oklahoma City where we saw them compete in a fatal four-way competition that also involved Brawler Morrison and Mitch Onyx. And now that you remove those two elements from that competition, we are left with Teego and Logan Knight. How do you think this is going to go down for Teego here tonight? What's your prediction?
Well, it can go down one of two ways. We have seen Teego use his experience edge to take advantage of younger opponents like Logan Knight, but we've seen Logan Knight and the Entitled go to the lowest of depths to ensure victory and ensure they keep some gold around their waist.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this plays out. Montego Sika makes his way down to ringside here tonight. Of course, the aforementioned EPW Internet Television Champion.
The Heat Sika is outside, and he's found the heat. It's hot out here at
most definitely
Empire
is, James.
Pro Wrestling. The Heat Sika, Montego Sika, he has found the heat, and he is bringing the heat right here to Empire Pro Wrestling.
You know, you're completely right in that estimation about the heat. I saw Teego walk by. I thought about getting in my car to use some air conditioning and call the show from inside, but instead we are out here with the rest of these lovely Empire Pro Wrestling fans to witness Montego Sika take on Logan Knight for the All-American Championship.
A hardy bunch indeed out here in the parking lot of VFW Post 9265, and they aren't letting the heat stop them from enjoying this action. But perhaps the spotlight could bring a little end to their enjoyment.
Potentially so. I mean, we've seen a lot of these individuals here tonight. This group of the Entitled, as the Rebel Hearts make their way down to ringside to accompany none other than the Empire Pro Wrestling All-American Champion. We've seen him a couple times here already. The Spotlight, Logan Knight.
Look at Justin Gray. Literally, he's holding a weapon used in a crime and proudly displaying it as Logan Knight makes his way around ringside here.
You're talking about a man that carries a sickle down to ringside, and you think that the most violent thing he does is hold a spotlight? I don't know about that, James.
It's ridiculous from the Entitled, the blatant disrespect for not only their opponents, but the basic rules set forth here in Empire Pro Wrestling.
I mean, we're talking about a man that carries a sickle. We're talking about a man that's wearing jorts down to ringside. I mean, I already think this is a very questionable individual to run with, but nevertheless,
Skinny
the spotlight.
jorts at that.
Skinny jorts, absolutely. Of course, we have the spotlight, Logan Knight, the Empire Pro Wrestling All-American Champion. How do you think he feels going into this contest? I mean, his championship is the only one on the line. He has nothing to gain here tonight and everything to lose.
Without a doubt, but I think that's why he brought those two insurance policies down to the ring with him in Christian Temple and Justin Gray. If you've got nothing to lose, if you've got nothing to gain and everything to lose, you want backup like that.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from with that one, James, but it's all about execution. I understand wanting backup. I understand having individuals at ringside to accompany you for emotional support, even intellectual support. But we have seen Justin Gray and Christian Temple get involved on multiple occasions just throughout tonight alone in contests that they had no right being involved in.
We've seen it time and time again. The Entitled doesn't care. They'll stick their nose, and more specifically, the Rebel Hearts will stick their nose wherever they deem fit at whoever's expense.
Of course, but let's talk about this. Logan Knight, as he comes out, a house of fire. Teego now strikes on strikes to the All-American Champion. Logan Knight is a former Empire Pro Wrestling Internet Television Champion in his own right. This man actually, at one point, for a period of 2 hours on September 11th, 2021, held both the Empire Pro Wrestling All-American Championship and the Empire Pro Wrestling Internet Television Championship. Now, of course, you know, that reign was cut incredibly short by none other than the urban legend Drake Gallows. But what I'm getting to here, James, is he knows exactly what it takes to hold both of those championships here in Empire Pro Wrestling.
Well, he knows exactly what it takes to hold them, but will he know exactly what it takes to maintain it tonight against somebody with the experience edge like Montego Sika?
Oh my gosh. The bop and the bang. Teego with a shot just absolutely flattening Logan Knight.
A left hand will do it every time from Montego Sika. Just square on the jaw of the Spotlight Logan Knight.
And another one, Logan Knight this time on wobbly legs. Out here looking like Rocky IV. Teego
grabbing a fan here.
What is this?
Charge and a flying drop kick to Logan Knight, courtesy of one of the Empire Pro faithful. You never know what's going to happen when you're in the crowd at an Empire Pro show.
Oh my gosh, what is going on here?
2 for 2 is Teego against Logan Knight. Just grabbing various fans here from ringside. As I said, you never know what's going to happen at an Empire Pro show.
You know, usually Logan Knight, between these two individuals, I'd consider Logan Knight to be the one to be more careless with the safety of children. What is that? Logan Knight with the spotlight in the eyes of Teego.
What a despicable move. He's proven he'd do it once. We should have known he'd do it again. Here he is now choking out Teego on that middle strand of ropes.
And Justin Gray and Christian Temple are most definitely affecting the mental game here from Teego, and also the physical game. What's going on here? Referee Brent Wall. Somebody's got to get some control over this thing, James.
The entitled are masters of manipulation, and we are seeing that at work right now. Logan Knight distracting our referee, allowing his two buddies, Gray and Temple, on the outside to interfere.
Logan Knight just driving that knee directly into the side of the skull of Teego.
Temple and Gray now shouting instructions into Logan. Perhaps they should be telling...
Logan Knight is distracting Brent Wall, and once again, Justin Gray and Christian Temple make their effects known here.
Surprise, surprise, Temple and Gray interfere in yet another Logan Knight match.
Now this side headlock applied here from Logan Knight. You know, if there's one thing that this man knows how to do, it's talk some trash. Just gave Teego a noogie here, James. That's absolutely despicable.
The disrespect from Logan Knight shown towards Montego Sika here. No respect for aerial assault and no respect for the Heat Seeker.
Apparently not. Logan Knight near Teego now. What's he going to do here? Multiple elbow shots. Forearm on forearm. Off the ropes goes Teego. Sunset flip, trying to go for the powerbomb combination, but no, Logan Knight drops down with the fist. Jerry Lawler-esque in nature. Logan Knight maintaining control in this contest.
Look at the form on those squats, nice and deep. I'll give Logan Knight credit. He's got an impressive squat, but let's see if he can use that to squat down and pick up a win over Montego Sika.
Logan Knight's trying to bend Teego in half like a pretzel. Tie him up in all sorts of different ways. And we have seen, we see this foot on the rope here of Teego. And the referee, Brent Wall, is now trying to break this thing up. And Logan Knight, of course, I'm very surprised to notice that Logan Knight obliged to that call there from referee Brent Wall.
Without a doubt, we usually see Logan Knight using 3 or 4 seconds of that 5 count, but seemingly showing some sportsmanship, or perhaps he knows he's got this one in hand.
For the first time ever, James. Teego with a strike there to Logan Knight. And he's battling back here. We're going to see if Teego, who has now lost his bandana, we're going to see if Teego can find a way to find himself back in this springboard off the ropes. No, he was going for that jumping cutter. He was going for that springboard cutter, and Logan Knight with his evasive maneuvers
Logan Knight telling the crowd there he's just a little too smart. He's got Montego Sika scouted. He knew what was coming, and he stepped right out of the way. Now he's applying that armbar there, just wrenching. Now going to drive those knees right into that shoulder joint of Montego Sika, just trying to rip apart that arm and yank it out of socket.
You know, I hate to admit it, but you want to talk about an academic competitor, you want to talk about Logan Knight. You talk about the man who has Teego in this hold right here. Knows exactly how to bend you in half. He knows exactly what pressure points to hit on the body to pick up a victory. And those are what he's examining right now here against Montego Sika.
Montego now very wisely rolling away, trying to create a little space between him and Logan Knight, but Logan Knight just closing the gap right away.
Knight now, he's got him up and over, body slam. Logan Knight. You have to stay on top of Teego. He's one of those competitors where you cannot let him regain any bit of strength that you have taken out of him.
Without a doubt, you give him a brief moment to catch his breath.
And Logan Knight.
Logan Knight goes down hard. It's a hot day. There's a lot of sweat on those ropes. He just lost his footing, but that allowed Montego Sika to catch a breath. He goes for that elbow drop. He misses. Now Montego Sika is back in control. A big leg drop there to the midsection, and he is back in control of this one.
I think about it went a little lower than the midsection, but I can't say I'm complaining about that drop kick, shotgun style out the corner. Hooking the leg with the cover, only a 2 count though. Teego nearly became a double champion here tonight. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one championship on the line out of these 2 competitors, and that is Logan Knight's Empire Pro Wrestling All-American Championship. Teego, I mean, he has stumbled upon a gold mine of opportunity here tonight.
It has got to be a good night to be Teego, knowing you cannot lose your title, but you've got that opportunity to pick up Logan Knight's title. I'm sure Logan Knight spent all day talking with Empire Pro management about this one.
I'm sure.
But nonetheless, we see him still in control here. Montego Sika's still going to have to do a lot of damage if he's going to want to pick up a win over Logan Knight. Logan's been in control of most of this contest.
And it really feels like Logan Knight has kicked it into second gear here tonight. What a contest we have witnessed between these 2.
The sun is starting to go down here in Oklahoma
Oh, he
City,
hit it!
And the sun might be setting on Logan Knight's championship run here. Teego into the pin, 1.
But no, the Rebel Hearts once again. Teego had this match won, James. I'm fully convinced.
And Christian Temple had to hop up on the apron and distract our senior referee, Brent Wall.
Wait, what is Justin Gray doing? That's Justin Gray from the top rope. Oh, Teego with a big body shot. Sending Justin Gray down hard, targeting Christian Temple. Logan Knight with the super kick.
Taking advantage of Teego's distraction.
I thought he was going for that snapmare driver, that patented finishing maneuver of Logan Knight, but instead,
Teego managed to cut him off.
Teego jumping cutter.
Has Logan Knight down. He just needs to make the pin. What's he going for here?
I think Teego is trying to send a message with this one. Montego Sika living up to the aerial assault claims.
Without a doubt, trying to ensure he's got Logan Knight away.
Oh, going for the Swanton bomb, missed.
And just took a second too long, and it allowed Logan Knight to recover. Now Logan setting up for...
Logan Knight. Oh my God.
Flipping him and turning him inside out. Logan Knight picks up the win over Montego Sika. He retains that Empire Pro All-American Championship.
The EPW All-American Champion. Then... now and hopefully for himself forever, Logan Knight.
The sun is going down and the spotlight is coming out here at Empire Pro Wrestling. An amazing performance there by Montego Sika, a valiant effort by Montego Sika. He's still your Empire Pro Internet Television Champion, but he came just short of picking up that All-American Championship against the Spotlight, Logan Knight.
Well, you got to be imagined that Logan Knight has interest in running this one back, just as I have interest in calling this match one more time. I'm sure you do, James. What a match that we just witnessed. But we just noticed, we just saw, Logan Knight has what it takes by hook or by crook to pick up a victory against Teego. Surely that puts Logan Knight in line for a future ITV Championship match.
Without a doubt, you've got to say that. It's a very strong showing here for the Empire Pro Wrestling board members and the matchmakers and the big movers and shakers here in EPW. And you know we've got to see an internet television title match between these two coming up soon. Well, folks, we're getting ready to start the finals here of the tag team tournament to crown #1 contenders for the Empire Pro Wrestling tag team titles, currently held by the Psychotic Messengers, Maniac Mike and Malachi. Of course, we're still waiting to hear. We have yet to hear an update on Kevin Sanchez of X-Rated. We'll have to see if he's in fighting condition tonight to take on the Saints of Pro Wrestling alongside his cousin Shane.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we even have protocol for, if Kevin James Sanchez can't compete here tonight due to the Oklahoma Athletic Commission rulings, what are we going to do here? Did Scott and Sean Sanders just get the opportunity to walk into the tag team championship match with the Psychotic Messengers?
You know that's what they've got to be hoping as they make their way to the ring now. The Capo and the Natural Born Killer, Scott and Sean Sanders, making their way to the ring, looking to dominate one more time. They've already done it once tonight, defeating Seventh Born, the debuting team of Pyro and Saw, a formidable-looking team in themselves. They defeated them once, and now they're looking to win it all and go on to challenge the Psychotic Messengers for those EPW tag team titles. There it is, Walker, the familiar strains of California Love. He's here. Kevin Sanchez is at least making his way out to ringside. He's still shaking that leg off, it looks like. But we'll have to wait and see if he's going to be in condition to take on Scott and Sean Sanders.
It's going to be very interesting to see how these knee issues that have plagued Kevin James Sanchez throughout a solid amount of his career, we're going to see if they play into anything here tonight with Kevin James Sanchez and Shane Sanchez as they battle for the #1 contendership spot. These men won Empire Pro Wrestling Tag Team Championship opportunity.
Without a doubt, and it's going to be interesting to see which team here has the better connection. We've got family ties running wild. We've got cousins Kevin and Shane Sanchez. We've got brothers in Scott and Sean Sanders. It's a family reunion here, Walker.
Most definitely is.
If your family reunion includes headlocks, body slams, and...
Well, yours don't? Is that what you're telling me?
I thought it was just standard fare, but it's about to go down here at Empire Pro Wrestling. Of course, we encourage you to like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, and make it out here to VFW Post 9265 at Southwest 44th and Penn in Oklahoma City for our next Empire Pro Wrestling show coming up July 30th. You don't want to miss it.
And not only that, but don't forget patreon.com/Empire Pro Wrestling OKC. Support the action that you see here live at the VFW Post 9265 as we get underway with our finals for the #1 contendership tournament for the EPW Tag Team Championships. It is Scott and Sean Sanders taking on Kevin James Sanchez and Shane Sanchez.
But it is not our final match of the night. Of course, folks, you want to stay with us after this one. The match we've all been building up to tonight. The Empire Pro Heavyweight Championship is on the line. Stryker defends against Maddox Jones. It's father versus son, career versus career. The title is on the line, and you don't want to miss it.
You want to talk about high stakes? There are no higher stakes than our main event here tonight. But that's not the match that these four men in the ring are focused on. These four men are focused on each other. Our semi-main event, Kevin James Sanchez and Shane Sanchez, X-rated, taking on the Saints of Pro Wrestling. As Sanders here, he is working on that other leg, the uninjured leg, if you will, of Kevin James Sanchez. The right leg of Kevin James Sanchez, as far as we know, is perfectly intact.
But it looks like Sanders here is trying to even things up a little, take both legs out. If a man has no legs, he cannot stand, and if a man cannot stand, he cannot fight, and that is what the Saints are trying to do to Kevin James Sanchez right now.
Any man with two legs has a fighting chance. I mean, especially if you can find a way to stand on both of them. Kevin James Sanchez, though, he might be having a hard time, harder than most people, within this attempt. And Sanders now, he's got that left leg wrapped in the ropes.
Just trying to stretch out every muscle, ligament, and tendon around that knee. That metal brace is working so hard to support. The Sanders just scientifically picking that leg apart.
You know, that's a fantastic way to put it, James Souther. Excellent call. Scientifically, precision-like offense here from the Sanders. Kevin James Sanchez is looking worse for wear. And you notice that Kevin James Sanchez had the guts, the kahunas to start this contest off on his own. He was more than willing to be the man, the first man that Sanders stepped toe-to-toe against in this ring.
Some people call it bravery on Kevin's part. Some people call it stupidity. Whatever you call it, you got to admire that with all he's been through, he's still in there against the Sanders twins right now.
You know, but it's only a matter of time before that knee and potentially that right leg of Kevin James Sanchez that Sanders has been targeting throughout this contest. It's only a matter of time before these ailments start to come to fruition here. Strikes on strikes between Kevin James and Shane Sanchez. And we're playing pinball tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
But this is what Kevin Sanchez needs. He's been stuck over there in the Sanders corner all night long. They've basically been playing keep away with him, Walker, and now he's finally got his opportunity. He needs to get a little bit of offense and then get Shane Sanchez in the ring and get that fresh man in there.
And now the tag made. Shane Sanchez is the legal competitor here. It has been a long time since we have seen Shane Sanchez stand one-on-one against Scott and Sean Sanders. And we are seeing this old rivalry rekindled here tonight as Sanders now with these body shots in the corner here.
Heavy hands from the Sanders. It doesn't matter which one you're in there with. They will both pummel you and beat you down with those heavy hands, and then they'll choke you out on the ropes just like this when they're done. Shane Sanchez now trying to sturdy himself in the corner. Outside interference from the Saints like we've come to expect, but you don't become the most decorated tag team in Oklahoma by keeping your hands clean, and that's what we're seeing now. The big catcher's mitt-like hands of the Sanders just cranking on Shane Sanchez's neck.
Of course. I mean, and Shane Sanchez, he's no slouch. This man knows what it takes to become a champion here in the state of Oklahoma. Former Mid-South Wrestling Alliance Mid-South Tag Team Champion with none other than Jason Sanchez, another member of the Sanchez dynasty. And not only that, you know, with his current compadre, the Sooner World Class Wrestling Tag Team Champions. 3 times he held those championships with Kevin James Sanchez.
Without a doubt, you're looking at 2 of the longest running and most decorated tag teams. Of course, the Sanders lay claim to that, but X-Rated not far behind.
Right there. Right there. 1, 2, 3.
Shane Sanchez being choked out on the ropes here, trying to get a little bit of air through those lungs.
Strikes on strikes here from Sanders, delivered directly to the skull of Shane Sanchez.
Shane picking up momentum here.
Oh my gosh, the cutter out of the corner. Imagine saying that 5 times fast.
He's trying to roll Sanders out so he can get the cover.
And now, oh my Lord.
Massive
Beautiful.
suplex.
Beautiful suplex here. Shane Sanchez making the tag in. Kevin James Sanchez is the legal competitor in this contest.
Shane Sanchez moving a whole lot of man there with that suplex. Now bringing in his cousin, Kevin James Sanchez, and trying to get things going for X-Rated and trying to make them your new #1 contenders. We saw this earlier. They're setting up for it, but not quite yet. Shane and Kevin Sanchez able to break it up. Stunner.
Massive boot out of the corner, though, to Shane Sanchez. Absolutely phenomenal.
A one-legged dropkick and a stunner, and both remaining men take each other down with a clothesline. Great minds think alike there.
Boy, look at that. Wait, what?
Referee Dave here counted both men down. Both men's shoulders are down.
I mean, I guess on a technicality they are, but it doesn't look like either man was exactly going for the pinning attempt. As we await our referee's official decision here.
We have LJ McDaniel here to make some sense of this issue.
Commissioner here at Empire Pro Wrestling. LJ McDaniels is here, James.
It was rolled a double pin.
What?
Therefore, there's no winner. That leaves me in charge to name the match for July 30th at Scars and Stripes for the Empire Pro Tag Team Championship. And it will be the Psychotic Saint of Messengers versus the Saints. Yes! And X-Rated.
Looks like we see you at Scars and Stripes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what an announcement that's been made here by EPW Commissioner LJ McDaniels. Kevin James Sanchez and Shane Sanchez of X-Rated are going to be taking on the Saints of Pro Wrestling and the Psychotic Messengers in triple threat tag team championship action.
Unusual circumstances call for unusual solutions, so we will see a triple threat for the Empire Pro Tag Team titles. There's got to be a winner in that one.
Absolutely, indeed. And what a matchup that we just witnessed.
As Tupac blares across the parking lot, X-Rated has returned, and they're looking for the gold, but so are former champions, the Saints Pro Wrestling.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard the announcement from our ring announcer here tonight, Ozzie Hendricks, as Mike Check Maddox Jones makes his way down to ringside. This man has held multiple championships across the great state of Oklahoma. In fact, he is a former Empire Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion, the shortest reigning EPW heavyweight champion in the history of Empire Pro Wrestling. And you know who he lost that championship to, James Southard?
Indeed, we saw Maddox Jones pick up that title at Thirst for Gold. A great match that was, but he turns around the very next day as we make our debut at the Sky Zone Trampoline Park in Edmond and loses that title to this man, his own father in Stryker. And what a win it was for Stryker to claim for the first time, the Empire Pro Heavyweight Championship.
Absolutely, it was indeed, James. The resurrector of reality, Stryker, is going to be here live in Oklahoma City to defend this Empire Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship in his very first defense as champion. This is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
He said he was going to show Maddox Jones how a first defense is done, and that's what he's coming to do today at VFW Post 9265 here in Oklahoma City. He is bringing the thunder, and he is coming to retain that Empire Pro Heavyweight Championship.
But don't forget, James, what's on the line here? It's not just the Empire Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. It is career versus career. The resurrector of reality, Stryker, has put his career on the line against that of his own flesh and blood, the product of himself. It is Maddox Jones.
There he is, the man who laid this challenge out, the man who said he had something to prove to Maddox Jones, and that is the resurrector of reality, Stryker.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I want to flash you back to April. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I want to flash you back to the Empire Pro Wrestling Sky Zone Trampoline Park, where we saw none other than Stryker win the Empire Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship for Maddox Jones. And of course, Maddox Jones challenged Stryker to a match, another title defense, trying to see if he could win this championship back. And Stryker, of course, putting his own career on the line. Maddox Jones putting his career on the line. There's a lot on the line. Like I said earlier on in the night, James, this is what we talk about when we talk about high stakes here in professional wrestling.
Without a doubt, and as they say, with no risk comes no reward, and both men are taking the ultimate risk, putting their careers, one of these two will never step foot, not only in an Empire Pro Wrestling ring, but will never step foot in a wrestling ring again. That's how much the Empire Pro Heavyweight title means to these guys.
That's saying something here, James.
Senior referee Brent Wall showing the prize, showing what it's all for.
He is the resurrector of reality. He is the Strikadelic one, the original Stryker. What is LJ McDaniels doing here?
Are you sure? Are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure?
Damn right I am.
I'm only asking this because once the bell starts, my hands are tied.
Do it! Stryker! 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 Do it! You're gonna win anyway!
You know what hurts the most? You've only got 10 years in this business, and I'll be the first one to admit, in the last 2 years you have changed so far. But when I walk out of here tonight, not only will I be carrying that belt again, I'll be carrying a burden of burying your ass in this business for once and for all. So yeah, I'm sure I want to do this. He's another one of these participation generation. You asked for it. You're fixing to suffer. You made a permanent decision on emotional reaction, and it's going to cost you your career. So I, not only being the guy that I am, being your father, I'm giving you the chance to just be a man and walk off.
I think I've earned the right to have enough pull to allow you to stay in this business if you walk off. But if you stay in this, you're done. Your choice.
Well, what a statement from Stryker here, James.
LJ McDaniel trying to give these men one last option to save their careers, and Stryker offering the same to Maddox Jones, basically assuring destruction if Maddox Jones doesn't walk away, and Maddox Jones is here to stay.
The offer is not taken. The bell has sounded. This match is underway. Stryker, your Empire Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion, takes on Mike Check Maddox Jones.
The sun is starting to go down here over Oklahoma City, but the action is just starting to heat up here in the ring.
Well, you want to talk about the sun going down. The sun is about to set for one of these men's professional wrestling careers, James. The weight could not be more drastic, could not be higher in this arena here tonight.
What a perfect metaphor here as these two, as you said, flesh and blood, father and son, not just personal and professional rivals. I mean, this runs deep between these two.
Absolutely. Collar and elbow tie-up here between Stryker and Maddox Jones. And both these men are trying to wrestle each other down to a lateral position. Of course, back into the corner, Maddox Jones sends Stryker. And a clean break. I mean, who else would you expect a show of respect from rather than your own family, your own flesh and blood, James?
You call that a show of respect. Maddox Jones still flexing those muscles, letting Stryker know he feels like he's got the upper hand. He's definitely got the size advantage here over Stryker, but Stryker definitely has that trusty veteran edge that he can always tap into and try to get an advantage over an inexperienced opponent like Maddox Jones.
Yeah, you want to talk about the experience of Maddox Jones. Maddox Jones making his professional wrestling debut on April 13th, 2012. And that, of course, a whole 14 years after that of his own father in Stryker, who debuted in September of 1998.
It's very rare here in wrestling that you see a 10-year veteran being the least experienced person in the ring, but that's what you've got when you're going up against 24 years of experience like Stryker.
Absolutely. Maddox Jones with these clubbing blows to the back of the head of Stryker. Starting off hot and heavy, covering lateral press. Well, there's no way Stryker was going to let his career end off of the back of a clubbing blow to the back of the head, no matter how powerful. It's going to have to take a lot to put away this man for good.
This man has stood toe-to-toe with some of wrestling's finest, people like Jake Roberts, people like the Honky Tonk Man,
Vader,
and so many more, and he still stood tall. You don't have a nearly 3-decade-long career just by being a pushover, and so Stryker's really having to prove that here as the mic check is just turning up the heat.
Absolutely. Maddox Jones going for that cover here, hooking the outer leg. Only a 1 count once more. This is a very emotional situation here, James, for both Maddox Jones and for Stryker. I mean, we are talking about having to put your own flesh and blood out to pasture one way or another. One of these two men will never step foot in a professional wrestling ring again. That might be it.
Stryker looking to close the book just like he brought that leg down on Maddox Jones, trying to take off the head of the snake, if you will.
But Maddox Jones halting that momentum. It's like running into a brick wall having to wrestle Maddox Jones, man.
And he's just always on top of you. You saw Stryker feel like he had the slightest moment to climb up on those ropes, and that's all it took for Maddox Jones to recover and send him plummeting from the top rope.
Stryker, I mean, we're talking about a man who thrives in high-pressure situations, James Southern. This man has held heavyweight championships in almost every single company that he has ever stepped between the ropes for.
Without a doubt, one of the state's most decorated competitors, and that's why you've got to give him the edge going into this, just through sheer experience. You'd think Stryker has seen it all, he's done it all, he's been there for it all, and now he's getting to put that knowledge to good use against Maddox Jones.
Absolutely, indeed. Whether it's the XCW Championship, the Mid-South Wrestling Alliance Championship, TCW, SWCW, going for the cover here. Only a 2 count there for Stryker at what, no matter what championship it has been, Stryker has defended it valiantly and with all of his heart. And not to mention the added element now of a career versus career stipulation. There is so much emotion and weight in this contest here for both of these competitors as you hear this crowd completely behind the back of one Stryker.
Without a doubt, this crowd has their favorite. Maddox Jones, not the most likable personality, so...
oh my God!
Dumping Stryker on his head. Maddox Jones did, with a pile driver there. Almost a 3 count. Stryker dropped right on his neck there, Walker.
Maddox Jones is as perplexed as I am. Mike Chet tried to land him with a mic drop.
But he's got to stay on him. He can't let that frustration get to him. There's that experience advantage that Stryker has that Maddox Jones doesn't have. You'd think Stryker would stay on top of the situation.
You know, and Stryker, he said it to Maddox Jones before, I've taught you everything you know, but I didn't teach you everything that I know. And Stryker is showcasing that in this contest against his own son here tonight. He might be looking for the stroke. He hit it. The stroke. That might be it, James. Maddox Jones' career is over. No. And the energy in this arena has been sucked out completely. We thought we were going to see the end of Maddox Jones' career.
Maddox Jones finding a way to stay alive after that stroke and a back body drop there that Stryker used to turn the tide there on the mic check. Stryker now almost to his feet as this crowd rallies behind him.
Stryker now Irish whip off the rope, sending Maddox Jones. Stryker with a clothesline, flattening his own flesh and blood, going for the cover. Hooking the outer leg, only a 2 count kick out there from Maddox Jones just in the nick of time.
It's going to take a little more than that to hold Maddox Jones down. Neither one of these guys are pushovers.
Exactly. I mean, we said it before, I'll say it again. Maddox Jones won EPW's own nuclear warfare match back in January to earn a shot at the heavyweight championship. He cashed in on that opportunity. He won the championship and then was blindsided by Stryker and lost the title in a match that he wasn't even expecting.
And least we forget Maddox Jones, as he hits a huge swinging neckbreaker here, called his own shot with that title match. While others would try to sneak in and cash in at an opportune time, Maddox Jones told the Empire Champion when he was going to face him, and he took that title, only to have it stripped away from him a day later by Stryker. This crowd is hotter than ever for Stryker as he fires up. Maddox Jones.
He's going for it, I think.
Can he hit it a second time? He's going for the stroke. He's got him lined up.
No. The blow to the gut. Maddox Jones lifting it up. He's looking for the pile driver. Oh my God.
Again, right on the neck of Stryker.
No, not like this. Oh my God.
Referee Brent Wall, you could see Brent didn't even want to make this call.
You could see the hesitation in our own senior official, and you know, as unbiased as our referees are supposed to be, I don't think anyone here in the arena tonight wanted to see Stryker lose this contest. I wish this. I don't even know what to say here, James.
Ever since this match was made, we knew it was a possibility. But I can't lie when I say that I kind of wished it was Maddox Jones.
I mean, you never like to hear about anyone's careers ending short, ending prematurely. But at the end of the night, Striker not only will never compete in an Empire professional wrestling ring again, but he will never step foot between these ropes in in-ring competition. An emotional night for all involved. Maddox Jones, he didn't want to have to do this. Nobody wishes that this is what it would have come to, but at the end of the night, LJ McDaniel said it at the beginning of this contest. There is no backing out of this agreement.
Striker now coming to terms with what this loss really means. It's not just another championship loss for Striker.
You know, quite often we find ourselves in these positions, James, where you know, you lose a championship match, you lose a title, but you know that you have the opportunity to bounce back. You know that you'll find yourself in championship contendership very soon. But that's just not going to be the case here for Striker.
And you hear this crowd paying their respects, giving an ovation to Striker here. Somebody who laid it all on the line for, as we've said, 24 plus years. Not the way you want to see things end, but what a way to do it. The Empire Pro Heavyweight title now held by Maddox Jones. The lineage carries on. Striker, his wrestling career is no more. But we have a very, very bright future ahead in Mike Check Maddox Jones.
The entirety of the Empire Pro Wrestling locker room pouring out in support of the Resurrector of Reality.
LJ McDaniel now, he offered the opportunity for Striker to back out.
Jake Cole, of course, the stepson of Striker. All of these family ties that we referenced here tonight. Justin Gray with an emotional embrace on a man who him and the Entitled have gone to battle against multiple times in the past.
What a showing of respect for Christian Temple and company. Say what you will, Striker's an absolute legend in Oklahoma, and he has touched every single one of these competitors in one way or another.
Wow, and this is not something I would have expected to see here today, James.
Logan Knight handing the Empire Pro All-American champion one last time to Striker. Of course, what a feud, what a rivalry they had for that belt, spanning months here at Empire Pro.
2021's EPW Feud of the Year in the Spotlight Awards.
Adrian Vega, a trainee of Striker's, a continuing Striker's legacy, if you will.
Darren Bain, another student of the game underneath Striker.
With a little parting gift for his mentor. And Teego Sika, two guys who spent quite a bit of time around each other. With the history between these two, is it only fitting that he's the one to send Striker off?
Well, James, I know that I'm not speaking alone whenever I say this, and I'm sure you would echo these sentiments. Striker, within our short times here in the professional wrestling industry, especially in Empire Pro Wrestling, has been an absolutely positive influence on the entire locker room, on the entire Oklahoma scene in itself, on myself as the Velvet Voice, on yourself as Diamond Jim James Southard.
Without a doubt, you talk about So many people in wrestling are in it for themselves. They get what they can out of it, and then they're done. And Stryker has always been willing to give back, and that's the best thing I can say about him. He's always willing to lend his time, his ear, his knowledge, and now he's going to lend a few words to us to leave us with here at Empire Pro Wrestling.
The thanks goes to all of you and to each and every one of you standing around here right now. 24 years! In just 2 days, over a month, I'll be 52 years old. I have no business out here doing this. But because of all y'all, I do it each and every time, and I leave every bit of it right here for you. So with that, again, thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and I mean it. Each and every one of you, I came in this locker room a year ago, and you guys made me feel so welcome. You gave me way more than I deserved. You made me humble. You keep me grounded. But damn, y'all made me proud of each and every one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I beg you, each and every time, go to an independent wrestling show, because these are the guys you see on TV tomorrow. They didn't just appear out of nowhere. They busted their ass right here. And every one of you, I say this to my students, I say it to you all, keep your nose down and keep moving forward. Your actions are louder than your words, and prove it every day. Thank you. I love you.